Oh Lord, time to rant about this show again. General Hospital in 10th place, almost in last place. Once again, as I have to talk about how boring this show is, and even though they may have righted one wrong, it doesn't make up for the bad decision making on this show. I had a nice rant in January regarding the Trina and Spencer storyline, and I also had a nice rant about some soap opera journalists, and I called them out for their shit, got into a little fight on Twitter, but in the end, I stand by everything I said because right after that, like clockwork, came some journalists and TV, and then the soap opera journalists jumped on that. Commending General Hospital for their writing, and it was a joke, and it was very transparent, and I called it happening. That anytime Valentini gets called out for being bad at his job, because he is bad at his job, the soap opera media will kiss his bottom. And that is what happened. There was this tweet by Michael Ausiello, I don't know what his name is, I don't really care, he works for TV Line. His tweet said, General Hospital has maintained a level of quality these past 2 years that's miraculous, given the forces working against daytime soaps, namely budget tightening, pandemic. He says, smart writing / direction, A+ cast, plots that tie into show's history, gives me hope for a genre. Hashtag soap nerd. That was transparent that there was some bad press for General Hospital and some bad press for Valentini, that he had to come and jump on board to try and give it positive press. And some of the soap opera sites jumped on his tweet and gave General Hospital some positive press, despite the show pulling off something that was awful regarding Trina. The fact that Trina was drugged and almost giving a deadly dose of drugs, but she just bodied it. She bodied those drugs and was okay the next morning and hasn't really talked about it much since. Only to try to make Trina a prop in the storyline because they know Trina's popular, but they're trying to push Josh and Cam front and center in the teen scene. And it's not working, and it was a big mess up to have the one black character who surrounds herself with white friends be drugged at a cabin because of some real life stories. I talked about all that in January. I don't want to dive into that again, but I just want to show once again how and why the soap media is bad for American soap operas. Acting like these shows do no wrong rather than calling them out when they do is bad for American soap operas, because these soaps are 2 decades behind the times. They're always playing catch up to modern views and modern social issues rather than just getting there. And I do think the networks probably play a part, I guess. But I think the journalists play a part too, because if you're always making excuses for the show, and I get you love them and you want them to stay on air, but that doesn't help the shows. The shows need to take more chances and not fall back on the same old crap that it doesn't work, and it doesn't grow the genre. It devolves the genre into this shell that it is now. Michael Ausiello would have never done this about a show on a streaming service, because the blowback might have been bad for him, because Twitter likes to cancel people. So if he would have done that, like if a streaming show would have done something really terrible to a black character with really bad writing or really lazy writing or really bad production decisions, and he would have came to their defense, it could have been really bad for him on social media. But because this is a soap opera and because the genre doesn't have any real respect, he could get away with doing that, and it just comes off like positive press, even though it's very transparent what it was. And during my tiff with some folks on Twitter, I had stated that the soap opera genre, it's a dying genre. And I don't do these videos because I think that I need fans of this dying genre. I do these videos because I too am a fan of this dying genre. You can't be upset that these shows constantly drop the ball when it comes to characters of color, and then also get mad when you call this a dying genre. This is a dying genre because it constantly drops the ball, not just with characters of color, but catching up to the year 2022 in general. That is the reason why it is a dying genre, and I'm just trying to call out these issues rather than kiss these shows' asses and be like, well, at least they're still on the air. You know, I want them to be on the air, but also actually trying for one, or just actually good. That would be nice. So no, the writing on the show and the producing on the show has not been good at all. Michael Ausiello, I don't know if he's another Italian, but he's making Italians look bad. But I guess they want to stick together, and this is coming from another Italian, that Carlavati and Valentini and Ausiello are going to have each other's backs, but I'm going to call them out when they're being terrible, and this whole stuff with Trina has been terrible, and I'll get back into that. I wanted this large rant, but it needed to be stated. So we finally had an almost kiss between Trina and Spencer, and you just can't tell me that these two characters don't have insane chemistry. The little that these two get in the story lately, their chemistry still comes through huge. And that's what makes them trying to make Trina just a fucking prop for Joss is annoying. They continue to make Joss a crap friend for Trina by bringing up the fact that Spencer gave Trina this book about an artist she loves, and she tells that to Esme to kind of push Esme's buttons when Esme's just going to, of course, come after Trina for that. Esme's setting up this whole video of Cam and Joss having sex and probably going to blame Trina, which is just going to make Joss and Cam look absolutely horrific as characters and as friends. So I don't know what the show is trying to get from this. They're clearly trying to make Joss be like her mother lately by just being argumentative and talking over people and running her mouth a lot. I don't know how that's a good thing for the character of Joss, because Carly is enough on this show to drive anybody insane. It's the Carly hour most of the time anyway. We don't need her daughter to be just like her. That would be overkill, but what to expect from a producer that lacks actual vision. I'm just flabbergasted, and I'm not going to cut the show any slack for a soap opera that takes place in New York, that Trina only has a bunch of white friends who are starting to look really terrible, that she wouldn't have other friends of color. It looks stupid. It is the main reason why I call soap operas a dying genre, because it just looks not only just bad, but it looks stupid. It makes the show look dumb. That this is set in New York, but Trina has no friends of color. It's just a bunch of, she surrounds herself with white people who are now starting the show. They give zero care about her. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense. It's bad storytelling. It just looks bad in general. Let me get off of that story to get to Sunny sleeping with Nina. I mean, at least they gave us a dramatic soap opera moment. I will give them that. But I mean, it's just more for Carly to play the victim and for Carly to scream like I talked about last month. We just constantly have Carly yapping away, complaining, playing the victim. We get it. I don't even hate the character of Carly that much. But the show basically revolves around her now, only for her to have the same conversations constantly. It's not good TV. It's just not good TV. The only good thing the show did in February was finally kill off, hopefully, who knows if it's true, if he'll come back in the future. If Valentini sticks around, he probably will. But they finally killed off Peter. Peter was going to take his and Maxie's baby and leave. But Maxie talked him out of that and said she would go with him and they could be together. But they were tracked down, and Felicia, I like that Felicia was the one that ended up hitting Peter over the head to cause his fall. And Peter dying surrounded by... I like that the women were the ones that were kind of on this and that tracked down Peter. And he died with Anna watching. Hopefully he's actually killed off. Peter was a terrible villain. Peter was more bad TV. So that is a step in the right direction for General Hospital. It only took several years to finally kill off their cartoon villain. And now it kind of makes the main villain be Victor, which I like because Charles Sognacy is great. They're kind of setting up Victor versus Laura, which I think is a good thing. I mean, I've talked about for a couple videos now how General Hospital has a lot of potential, but it's always seemed to be wasted potential. A lot of that has to do with the pacing of this show. We finally had a kiss between Chase and Brooklyn. They're another couple that has good chemistry. I like them together, and I'm glad they finally get a kiss because I feel like the show has been building to this for quite a while. And I've seen people on Twitter act like with these couples it's a slow burn. It's like the old days. It's a slow burn. No, it's not like the old days. The old days had strong writing. That's the big difference. Yes, some of the couples had a slow beginning, but not this slow and not this bad at times. Trina and Spencer don't even have a real story right now. They don't. Their build to them being together is barely there because they keep trying to backburn it to make Josh and Cam be the it couple, and they're just never going to be. I don't consider this like the old days at all. The old days would have a push-pull for the great soap opera couples in the past. The beats for these couples on soaps nowadays, there's just too many beats missing. Or it just takes too long to get to a beat. So we'll see how these couples turn out because they do have great chemistry. That is something General Hospital has over a lot of these other shows right now. Are two couples that have chemistry you could really see through the screen, that being Spencer and Trina and Chase and Brooklyn. Another pacing story is Elizabeth's story. I don't know exactly what where they're going. I avoid spoilers. I've seen speculation on Twitter. I don't know what it could be, but I wish they would move Elizabeth's story along as well because it's another really slow, really badly paced story. And I think on a day-to-day basis, even though I have Days in last place, the thing Days has over General Hospital for sure and over Young and the Restless is that on a daily basis, Days can be entertaining because they have strong script writers. General Hospital doesn't have that. Most days of the week, General Hospital is a very boring show, and I've gave Young and the Restless the slack for being boring, but General Hospital is pretty boring too. And that is why General Hospital stays second to last. It's not quite as bad as Days because Days doesn't have a whole lot going for it as far as stories go right now, in my opinion. As I talked about in the Days video, it is lacking any good stories. I think all the stories right now are bad. General Hospital at least killed off Peter, which gave it a few points in my book. And they still have a whole lot of potential even though they waste it constantly. So it's not quite in last place, but it remains in 10th place. Even the theme is bad. They have a new theme and a new intro, and it's awful. General Hospital, out of all 11 soap operas that I'm doing in these rankings, has the worst intro theme by far. So yeah, General Hospital stays in second to last. It's now 10th place because Home and Away has returned, so that is in the rankings. General Hospital is in 10th place, and you know, I had to rant again a lot because I feel passionate about Spencer and Trina, and I hate how these shows, and especially General Hospital, has a poor history of black characters. They've always been backburned. There was a short while in the mid-90s where they had some black characters front and center. But even then, it was still kind of B stories. But Trina is so popular, and Trina and Spencer as a couple clearly have chemistry and clearly is popular, that they should not be backburned for any reason. I don't think there's any excuse. I don't like the whole college excuse. You could still make it work 2 days a week if you needed to. But using Trina as a prop is a slap in the face. And like I talked about in January, I don't like how the show is acting like it is the 60s when it comes to an interracial couple. Like they don't want to touch upon it. As someone in an interracial couple with a black woman, it doesn't make any sense. It's 2022, not 1979. Like I talked about last time, Days of Our Lives had an issue having an interracial couple in the 70s because of the fan pushback. It was outrageous. But now it's not outrageous at all. And it's just another telling issue how the soap operas are stuck in the past rather than coming to 2022 and giving the fans what they want. Valentini struggles to do that. He wants to give his vision, even if the fans hate it or the fans complain. That doesn't work. That's not gonna work. And I'm going to continue to call out any American journalists that want to kiss General Hospital's ass when they continue to make mistakes and then you just want to sweep it under the rug. I don't think it needs to be swept under the rug anymore. Soap operas have done this forever. This genre has done that forever. You can't sweep it under the rug anymore. And I can't do that. So, yeah, this was a long video. I kind of ramble a lot sometimes, but I just want to get the point across because the last video was popular. And no, I'm not just jumping on the Spencer and Trina train like some people on Twitter said when I was talking shit about some of the journalists. I feel very passionately that the genre can still change. There is time to get it to modern times. But that starts with calling the genre out, not kissing the ass of these producers. General Hospital does not have good writing. And I don't like the excuses for it. So Michael Ausiello, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but the dude from TV Line, and then these other soap opera things that kind of like reposted his tweet to say General Hospital's getting good press was just, it made me roll my eyes so much. It was just so transparent because this is what has been happening with this genre for the past 2 decades. I want the show to be good because, like I always talk about, it does have potential, but it has a formula right now, and it's not a good one. The formula is have Carly on almost every day a week, having the same conversations over and over and playing the victim and screaming at people, and then make your other stories move so slow that they eventually get so irritating that you don't even want to continue watching, or that you just think that it's not going anywhere because the pace is horrid.